All right. It looks like we're live on both channels. Looking good? Okay, great. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Daily Printulian Show. I'm here with Shelton again, and we're having a fantastic, what's today? Is today Thursday? I'm losing track of my days.
It's a Thursday. I was also thinking it was a weekend already, but my alarm decided to ruin my mood. Imagine.
Imagine the audacity.
You know,
No,
like
I think
whatever
it's
happened to carry on?
the days are just the days are just blurring together. I think it's just like lockdown syndrome. Everyone's just kind of like, what day is it? I don't know.
It's almost like you know that time like after Christmas and before like work begins. There's also like this sort of feeling where you're not really sure what day it is.
Yes.
There's nothing on TV. Everything is just like confused,
Yeah, true. Okay, so yes, I hope everyone's having a fantastic Thursday now that we've confirmed that it is in fact Thursday. Gosh, I hope everyone's surviving lockdown a bit better than I am. I feel like my brain is turning into mush more and more every day. But yes, we're here today to talk about, I'm sure you've seen the title of the video, to talk about some interesting design things. You will have seen that we mention RGB and CMYK and print-ready artworks over and over and over again, because this is such an important thing. If you are designing your own artwork, or if you have a client that has designed their artwork, it is so important to make sure that that adheres to certain specs. And one of these specs is the type of color space. So I think Shelton has a couple of questions for me, and I'll be deep diving into a bit of the specifics, explaining why this is so important. And yeah, Shelton, do you want to launch into your questions for me? I'm ready. I have my water. I'm ready.
All right. I'll try not be like I'll try not to put too much stress on you. Okay, and I will see if you can explain this like vividly. So like I want you to imagine like this is designed for dummies. Okay, so you have to like answer in such a way where I truly understand. Right. So something that I have come across a lot, especially with when liaising with clients and receiving calls and such, it's to do with the color profile, like you mentioned. So I vaguely have an idea, but I know there's something called CMYK and there's something called RGB. So like what can be printed, what can't be printed? Like, just give me a bit of a background on that.
Okay. Once again, we just have a comment, Amy LaRue. As a designer myself, I can't stand it when a client sends me their artwork in a Word or Excel document. Girl, same. But you know what? At the end of we actually get PowerPoint documents as well, so I think I can one-up you there. But the thing is, like, if you don't work as a designer, you don't know these things, right? So that's why we're here to explain that today. Shelton, to get back to your question, RGB versus CMYK, right?
I thought you had forgotten about me, I thought Amy had taken my place in your heart,
Sorry. So RGB versus CMYK, that was the question, right? Just explaining the difference there. Okay.
That's right.
So basically, RGB is the color spectrum we use for a screen. That is the colors that you're seeing very vividly looking at your screen right now. It's on phones, on TVs, computer screens. It's a digital space. That's the color spectrum we use there. I'll go into a bit more technical detail with that now. CMYK, as you may have heard, is the color spectrum we use for print. It is, yeah, that's the color space you need to be designing in from the beginning if you are. I'm glad you think we're hilarious, Amy. Great. Gosh. Okay. Staying focused. I'm not having a very focused day. So CMYK is what you use for print. So that is important to make sure, because a lot of times if you're using Adobe, Illustrator, or InDesign, a lot of times automatically the color space is set to RGB. So that's something you need to be very wary of. Always design from the start in CMYK, because the colors are different. So if you try to print exactly what you see on screen, you're going to be very disappointed, especially reds, like the vivid red here behind me, dark blues. It tends to convert differently if you try to print a RGB artwork. Okay, so are you ready for me to go into a bit more like technical detail about this?
Don't worry, I have my notepad ready. So let's see what I'll be able to catch.
Okay, good. Okay, so RGB, is, okay, so RG and B stands for red, green, and blue. It's an additive color module. So what that means basically is when you add the different colors together, it creates new colors, right, without subtracting from the vibrancy. So I think RGB, I wrote it down because I couldn't, it allows for 16.8 million different color combinations. So it's a huge spectrum. CMYK is a lot more limited. Because we're using inks. So it's just a technical thing. And unfortunately, if you print, you do have a limited color values. So CMYK is a subtractive color module. So what that means basically is the C, M, Y, and K. So that's cyan, magenta, yellow, and key. Key being referred to as key because it's black. Key is black, but it's referred to key because it's basically the base, right? You can't create contrast or anything without black. And adding the cyan, the magenta, and the yellow together can't create black. So that's why we refer to that as key. So that's your C, M, Y, and K. But that's a subtractive color module, which means that when you add it together, basically the color only gets darker and darker. So you do subtract from the vibrancy of it. The most vibrant colors you can get from that is the basic cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. So, okay, I don't want to go into too much detail, but I hope that hopefully explains it. But so at the end of the day, CMYK is what you use to print, and RGB is what you use for screen. Okay. That explained it. I don't know. You must ask me questions because I know I kind of like went into technicality.
Like, you know, for me, I'm just kind of shocked to when colors became so complex. I remember in preschool, you just throw red paint and yellow paint and you make orange. And now you're telling me about what, like 16,000 different combinations. Like, are there different types of black? Like what? You know?
So it's actually interesting you mention that because that's basically what ink is, right? Well, it's not the same thing, obviously, but you can think about it like that. That's a good way to kind of visualize it as paint that you're mixing together. And you'll know from primary school or whenever you played with paint still, if you mix too many colors together, it becomes muddled. So that's what I mean with it's subtractive. It only kind of deducts from the vibrancy as you keep mixing. So it's the same principle with inks.
Okay.
And yes, I think that's actually important to just reiterate there are different blacks. I think I mentioned it in a previous video, but your main K value, so the C, M, Y, and K values, your main K value, if you just have that as 100% and the C, M, and Y is 0%, if you're working now in your Adobe software and you can set the color values, that's a flat black. So
Okay.
we tend to recommend that for text and smaller spaces of black when you're printing. That's fine. But if you're printing like a background that's black or a large space on a large format design that's black, you want to be going with a richer black or a designer black. I mean, each designer has their own preference. Mine is a pretty standard rich black that I use. It's like a combination of C, M, Y, and K. So that's 70% cyan, 50% magenta, 30% yellow, and then 100% black. And you'll see that creates a much darker black when it prints, which is quite nice for backgrounds. So yeah, but it depends on how much detail you want to go into.
Okay. All right. So if I also heard you correctly, so you mentioned RGB. That's mainly for like screen purposes, right? So for like, let's say, for example, online advertisements or things that are not getting printed, then RGB is perfect. Is that it?
Yes. So if you're designing, say you're in Photoshop or you're in actually Photoshop, just worth noting, Photoshop tends to just design an RGB automatically. You have to set it to CMYK if you want to export it as CMYK. So oftentimes we get Photoshop designs that are not CMYK, and that's why. But yeah, so if you're designing like a banner for your Facebook page or a post or anything like that, then RGB is 100%. That's perfect. And you actually want to be designing an RGB then because CMYK will seem a little dull on screen. Yeah.
Okay. No, I think you explained it pretty well. Now I think I have more of a better understanding on that. Sorry to kind of change the topics here, but like what Amy was mentioning earlier, and I think you also mentioned it's the main title for this call as well. The color, the format of the print ready artwork, right? So usually from what I've come across, okay, I know it has to be PDFs. But yeah, there are cases where we get Word documents, PowerPoint documents, Excel, like Amy mentioned. So is there like a main reason why it has to be PDF? Like how does that work?
Okay, so sorry, I'm already like annoyed because it gives me headaches, guys. Honestly, like I try to be understanding, and I know not everyone knows about this, but as a designer, as Amy mentioned, when you get this document and it's like I have to redo everything. So, okay, so I mean, it's normal to think I'm going to print a book, so why can't I just type it out in Word and send it to you guys and you print that as a book, right? But the thing is, if the font that you're using, for example, is not on our system, it can drop. So it's really never ideal to do that. That's the main thing with Word documents, and also these softwares. So Word document, PowerPoint, Excel. Luckily, I haven't seen anyone send one of those yet, but please don't, guys. Just don't. But yeah, those tend to be not really kind of made for prints. It's more for, yeah, so there's no setting. You'll know if you're like a Word document buff or whatever, you don't have a setting to set it to a different print setting of CMYK or whatever. You probably would have never heard of it then. So that's a problem. The fonts aren't embedded. And the images aren't embedded. A lot of times, if you send us like a multiple page document with images on it, there's that meme of like a Word document changing the image, shifting one image 1 millimeter to the right, and the whole thing changes. But like those aren't embedded, so that can also drop when we print it. It's just not ideal for so many reasons. And the other things like PowerPoint and stuff, we don't really have a size for that. We don't print that, so. Like a print ready PDF, I hope I'm explaining this and not rambling too long, but a print ready PDF, we always specify first and foremost, it has to be the same size as what you're printing. So if you're printing a 100 by 200 centimeter banner, the artwork that you're designing in Adobe Illustrator needs to be 100 by 200 centimeters. So in Word, there's no setting for that. In PowerPoint, there's no setting for that. So it's just never ideal. It's never going to match with the specs of your order from the get-go, along with all of the other things. And as to what a print-ready PDF is, I've already gone into a lot of detail with that. I'll post I did a quick tutorial. I don't know if you guys might have missed it, but I did a quick tutorial of how to design a business card in Adobe Illustrator as a print-ready PDF in under 10 minutes. So I will post that in the comments below. It's really simple. And you don't have to necessarily have these super expensive softwares because Adobe is expensive. If you're not going to be using it as a professional, it's kind of pointless to invest in that. There's so many free online softwares available. I've done a blog about that, and I also did a quick tutorial of how to use Canva. It's not the best, but it's a lot much of a better option than Word documents and PowerPoint and Excel. So please try to avoid using that, guys. Really, please save me the headache.
Yeah. The quick one there. You mentioned something about text images not embedding. Like, what does that really mean? Like, does it mean they're not stuck on properly, or how does just imagine you're explaining this to like a toddler. You know what I mean? So like,
sorry, I'm sorry. Not stuck on properly. Okay, no. Calm. I'm calm. Sorry. Charlton, you always make my day. You know that. Right.
It's only a
Okay, so if you're embedding an image, again, this is in the tutorial, so go check that out. It's super easy to do. Basically means you're making that file native to the document. So it's not linked to a file that you have outside in one of your other folders on your computer. It's native to that document, so it can't drop. And with text, basically what you're doing is you're converting it to shapes. So instead of our system reading it as a font that maybe we don't have on the system and it just kind of goes, oh, we don't have this, it's reading it as a shape. So there's no reason for it to drop, and you won't be missing any funny text or whatever on your document. Does that explain it?
Yeah, no, I think I understand, because There's actually a time when I think I was typing something out and I just went and I saw there's so many different fonts and stuff. So I'm assuming, like you mentioned earlier, that we might not have the font, you know. So like if it's now taken as an image, it'll then be taken as any other normal image. Like I don't have to first look for the font in our systems. It's something like that, right?
Yeah, well, that's like a long way around of explaining it, and it's
Okay.
not like exactly the technicality of it, but I think that gets the point across. Like that's basically what's happening and why that's important, because we don't want you to get a document where some of the images just haven't been printed or some of the text is just gone. It's never ideal. So yeah, that's basically the biggest reason why. But as I said, like I covered all of this in those 2 tutorials, so I will post those in the comments down below for you guys to quickly check. They're nice and quick as well and easy to follow.
Okay, and I guess correct me if I'm wrong, but image files are fair game, right? Like they
What
can upload image files like instead of PDFs, you can also like upload image files. Do those also work, or
you mean?
is
You mean like JPEGs and PNGs
yeah,
and
JPEG. Yeah. So like
yeah.
instead of having a PDF flyer, can they also use the JPEG flyer, for example?
You can. We do print that if you're configuring your ooh, sorry, just a notification popping here. If you have a if you're doing your configuration of your product on the website, there is an option to select print ready PDF versus PDF, JPEG, PNG. So we do have that option. It's not ideal, as I explained. Print ready PDF is always going to be the best. But we do allow for that. But the problem is that if you didn't design that correctly then and it's low resolution, there's not much we can do to help you. A PDF that's editable and we can quickly jump in and potentially help, or you can go back and reformat that quickly. A JPEG is a flattened file. You can't edit it anymore. So it's never ideal, but we do allow for it if it's the right size and it still matches the specs, yes.
Okay. Yeah, I guess one more quick one. So, like there's this online tool. Okay, if I think there's actually a lot of them, like online websites where you can convert, for example, from Word to PDF and things like that. Would you advise those? And like, what are the technicalities involved? So we're talking about PowerPoint files, you know. So if I take a PowerPoint file, and then let's say I run it through an online some link where I can convert it to PDF, or
Yeah.
I export it directly as PDF. Is that perfect, or do you advise that? Is that okay? How does that work?
So I'm not sure that I've ever, because okay, look, personally, I obviously don't use these, but I have seen we do recommend them sometimes to clients if it's like a last ditch resort. My personal experience, whenever I've tried to use these, they've been very finicky. Sometimes they don't allow the file size or whatever. I don't recall ever being able to upload a Word document. Have you done that?
There's this one thing I know and I think it's Microsoft Office 2013 and upwards. You can export as a PDF file.
Yeah.
Like so you don't even have to go like online and things like that. So I have seen it, but like I just wasn't really too sure, like if that's okay and if things aren't affected. You know what I mean?
So,
Yeah.
as I was saying before, it's great that you can save Word documents as a PDF, and that's one step closer to the ideal. But it's not a print-ready PDF because, as I said, it's not a design software, so it doesn't allow you to embed fonts or anything like that. So you're still going to have those same issues.
And then bleed those things, eh?
No bleed, none of that. So that's still a problem. It's never ideal. But as far as the online converters go, yeah, I mean, I guess if it's a last-ditch resort, you don't really have any other option. But I personally feel there are always other options. And I think, especially when it comes to design, because it's quite time, what's the word? It takes a lot of time out of your day. I think it's better to just always do it right from the beginning. And it doesn't have to cost you money. There are free resources available online. Yeah, so yeah, I mean, use the converter if that's like your only option, but I don't think it's your only option. I'd rather say, do that. And also the same with the RGB and to CMYK converters that you get.
Yeah.
Yeah, you see, the thing with that is like it's a better option than nothing, but you'll see that the color changes quite a bit. So that's why I was explaining earlier, it's best to design in CMYK from the start, because then you're designing according to what you see, and you know that's what you're going to get, versus it converts and it's like a completely different blue or whatever, and it's not what you wanted. So, yeah, I'm not a huge fan, but if you have to, then yeah, make it work, I guess.
Okay. No, I think you actually answered the questions pretty well. I think now I have some added knowledge on it. So don't ever be offended if you see me going around talking like I know what I'm talking about. Okay. I will credit you, or I'll try to say, now Trudi taught me, but like 9 times out of 10, I'll take the credit for myself. I'll be like, now the self-taught, she didn't do anything. But you explained it pretty well.
Always give
Actually,
credit, always give credit where it's due, even if you just have to cite my blog post, okay?
that's actually not a bad idea.
Yeah, you see?
I think it'll save me a lot of explanation, I'll be like, what? Let's try this blog. Anything you need, she'll answer.
Exactly, you see. All right, but do you have any other questions, Shadi, or are we good? We've been rambling for 20 minutes now. Gosh.
I almost forgot we were online. But yeah, I think you pretty much covered all of it. Like I said, yeah, it was pretty well explained. Like, I am actually quite shocked. So yeah, the color stuff I now get it. You say the color stuff, yeah, I quite get it. And the files and embedding, yeah, all that now makes sense. So there are no further questions for me. I'm not sure, like, if maybe there's anything else you feel like the people should know.
The people should know. Yes, actually. So please do check out in the comments. I'm going to be posting all of the links that we've discussed in these last 20 minutes. I can't believe we've been going on for that long. So please do keep an eye out for that. Also, I launched a blog post this morning, so go check that out. We sent it by Messenger as well. So if you're subscribed to our Messenger, you will see it. Otherwise, it is on our Facebook homepage. Quite interesting there. Just answering some FAQs in regards to uploading your artwork online, how to go about that. So that's quite interesting and quite relevant to you if you're a customer or thinking of becoming a customer. Also, I'm going to be launching a brand new podcast tomorrow, so keep out for that as well. It's going to be in the header of our Facebook page and also as a post on our Facebook page. So go sign up for that. It's free, and go check out our podcast. Yeah, that's pretty much it. All right, Shelton, cool. Thank you very much for joining me. I need to cut this short now because we need to get back to work. Gosh.
By the way, I almost forgot. But yeah,
wow.
No, thank you for having me, Trudi. It's always a pleasure. Always.
Yeah, thanks for all the awesome questions, Shelton. You're great. Okay, bye everyone.